Hi y'all, welcome to Gabriel's Horn. So today I'm going to be talking about my Oxford Engineering Science interview, and I'm going to share everything I know about the interviews so you can go in feeling as prepared as possible. Firstly, these are the stats that got me an interview at Oxford. I got 93 on the PAT and 4 A stars for my A-levels. These were achieved grades as I was on a gap year. And Oxford has announced that from 2026 onwards, the PAT has been replaced with the ESAT. So we don't really know yet what kind of ESAT scores might get you an interview. But what we do know is that these admission test scores are really important factors in the shortlisting process. So make sure you're well prepared for it. Now let's get on to the interview details. So I got my interview invite on the 24th of November, and from what I saw and heard from the people around me, most invitations were sent out between late November and early December. It sure feels like a long wait, and it's okay to be nervous, but try to be patient, and if you can, take your mind off it and focus on other things in the meantime. So as you can see on the screen, I had 2 interviews, one at the college I applied to and one at a randomly assigned college. Both interviews were held online. One thing I was quite surprised on interview day was that I had the chance to speak with some of the current Oxford students for around 5 or 10 minutes before my interview. They were mainly there for technical checks to make sure everything was ready for the interview. But once everything was set up, they were kind enough to have a chat with me. They asked me things like whether I was nervous and if there was anything I wanted to ask about Oxford. Just having that opportunity to chat with them before my interview really helped calm my nerves, so I think that was a really thoughtful thing for them to do. Another thing that's worth mentioning before going into my interview details is the digital whiteboard. You will receive a link to the whiteboard a few days before your interview, and I'd recommend having a bit of practice with it beforehand, as it can be quite different from the online whiteboards that most people are used to. I also felt that doing it on the app was much easier than doing it on the website. Now I'll be talking about my interview questions. Surprisingly, my interview had no personal questions. And when I say personal questions, I mean things like, why do you want to study at Oxford? Why do you want to study engineering? Well, mine had none of that, and it went straight into the technical questions. However, just because I didn't get any doesn't mean that you won't, so I'd still recommend preparing some answers for these questions. But you probably don't need to stress about this section too much. So in my first interview, I had a question on graph sketching, some mechanics, and also some questions on circuits. In my second interview, I had 2 questions, one regarding graph sketching and then another one on Archimedes' principle. I'm not really allowed to share the content of these questions in detail, but what I can say is that the context was not beyond the A-level syllabus. So if you revise properly for the PAT or now the ESAT, you should already have the knowledge needed to ace these interviews. I'll share some useful resources towards the end of the video, so make sure to stick around for that. At the end of the interview, the interviewers will ask you if you have any questions for them. I've seen very mixed advice online about this, where some people say that you should ask a question at the end because it shows enthusiasm, and others saying that you shouldn't. My take on this is that I don't think it really matters that much. Maybe having a small conversation at the end could leave the interview on a nice note, but what really matters is how you approached and solved those questions in the interview. That said, you are talking to some of the best educators in the world during these interviews, so if there is a genuine question that you want to ask, then ask it. It can be a great opportunity. Personally, I asked about a coding question because computer science was never a thing that I did at school, and I know that engineering requires computing to some extent, so that was one thing I was curious about. So, now that you have a general idea of what an interview at Oxford University entails, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I prepare for these interviews? Well, you're in luck because you have found Gabriel's Horn and this video. I have attached all the links to the interview questions that I found during my interview preparation, and there's a bunch of them, so you probably won't run out anytime soon. Some of them that are definitely worth mentioning are I want to study engineering and also the PAT past papers. Even though the PAT isn't going to be used anymore, those past papers are still really great for practice and they contain a lot of interview style questions, so make sure to have a go. And when you're solving these problems, make sure to think out loud and explain what's on your mind step by step. This is a really crucial skill for Oxford interviews. These interview sessions are meant to be more like a discussion. You tell them how you think and why you think that way. And if you're a bit off track, they'll usually give you hints and guide you along the way. But they can't really help you if they don't know where you are in your reasoning. To get comfortable with this idea of thinking out loud, I would recommend doing lots of mock interviews. You can ask your teachers or find people online, or you can even message people on places like LinkedIn. Some people are actually kind enough to give you free online interviews. You just have to find them and have the courage of asking them. Something that helped me as well was recording myself. Sometimes I thought I sounded fine, but when I watched the recordings back, I realized I sounded quite monotone or speaking too quietly. So watching yourself back can help you improve things like how clearly you explain your reasoning and how confident you come across in that interview. Okay, so that was all the advice from me as a past Oxford engineering science applicant. I really hope that was helpful and you found out things that you hadn't known before. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, or if you have any questions about the ESAT, the interviews, or preparation, feel free to leave a comment down below. I wish you good luck with your preparations and try to enjoy the interviews. Only a handful of people even get the chance to do them, so try to make the most of this opportunity. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in another video. Bye bye!